Behind me is a new boat from Fairline I'm really quite excited about. It's called the Fairline Targa 47 Open. There is a GT variant with an enclosed saloon that's currently being launched in America, and those of you who know Fairline will know that this platform is based on the outgoing Fairline 45, which was a very popular boat in its own right. This again is designed by Christian Gott, designed as a proper Purist sports cruiser with the looks to match. So what we're going to do is jump on board, have a good walk around, and then take her out to sea and see exactly how she performs. Now, as you can see, time is of the essence here today, so we're already heading out, but we'll just do a quick walk around while we're underway before we grab the helm and have a little drive. So first up, at the back end of this boat, well, we've got a nice big raised island sunbed there. Beneath that, we have plenty of space when you hinge that up for a 2.85 metre Williams tender. And we've got a drop down hydraulic platform here, so sliding that in and out is no problem. And the tray for that tender, well, that lifts up too. And when you lift that up, you get really excellent access to the engines. In this case, a pair of IPS650s, 480 horsepower apiece. For speeds, they tell me, in the region of 32 knots. Space for a generator as well on the port side, and a little access hatch, just for easier daily access under this hatch on the port side here at the top of the steps. There's a ladder there, so it's easy enough to get down in there, but the mouldings do make access to the engines quite difficult. So if you want to pay any proper attention to the engines, then getting your tender out of the garage, lifting up that tray and accessing it by that means is by far the better technique. Now, before we make our way round to the starboard side and into the cockpit, it's worth having a little look at this. We've got a little rope locker there, a little line locker beneath this natural teak deck. Apparently, Fairline customers continue to favour real teak over any of the synthetic alternatives, so that's what we have on this particular model. And I should point out, as we walk around this boat, that what we see here is boat number one, the very first 47 Open. So there are a couple of bits here and there that need finessing, and the guys at Fairline are very conscious of that. Here's, of course, the additional line locker on the starboard side. We'll have a look at the cockpit and saloon in a moment, and we'll look at those as one, because as you say, on this open model they're very much integrated. Before we do that though, let's climb up onto the starboard side deck and walk forward. And as we do so, well, the decks, they're pretty good width. If I just point the camera down, you'll see easily space for a couple of feet there, whether you're wearing shoes or not. There's a rail mounted into the roof structure there as well, and really good high peripheral guardrails as well. So it feels very secure indeed. And actually the tow rail is pretty raised too. If I pop my hand down there, you'll see it's a good 2 or 3 inches. So it feels very secure indeed. You certainly don't feel at all vulnerable as you make your way forward. And when we get to the bow space, well, it's not particularly complicated in any way. What we got is a raised island sunbed in the centre with backrests that lift up into position just so you can prop yourself up a little bit. And I reckon that's big enough just about for 4 people. What's particularly interesting though up here is if I bend down nice and low and bring the camera down to that level, you'll see the elevation of that island sunbed, the elevation of that structure. And if I lift the camera over the side and look at the rubbing strake, you'll see we've got a lot of elevation above the rubbing strake as well. Very elevated hull sides, which ought to mean some proper volume down below in that bow cabin. It also means, in terms of the aesthetics of the boat, very good things. Those raised hull sides kind of make the superstructure feel relatively low slung and hunkered down, so it's quite a potent looking boat, it has to be said. And certainly the glazing plays a big part in that. And while we're talking about the glazing, we should just mention the screen. A nice one-piece screen uprates the aesthetic, improves the visibility from the helm, and it's impossible not to notice this as well. This absolutely vast sunroof encompasses the entire internal saloon. So when they call this the 47 Open, they genuinely mean it. This comes as standard, so that tells you how important it is as part of this boat's armoury of features. Now let's head back down the port side down a couple of steps, and as you can see, because the cockpit, the aft part of the cockpit is asymmetrical, we've got a nice big C-shaped dinette on the port side. Access to the cockpit, proper access, is via that starboard walkway. So we'll climb over the island sunbed, take a little look down into there and step forward. Now, as you can see, this really collaborates with that huge open sunroof, and it collaborates with the lower deck layout as well. We've got a galley down there on the port side, as you'll see in a moment, and that means that all we need up here on the main deck is a relatively compact wet bar. On the outgoing 45, this was just a kind of corner seat, and that was kind of space wasted, so we got a proper wet bar up here instead, and we'll have a look at that in a second. First up, if I just spin the camera around, you can see what we have here in the form of this C-shaped dinette is an aft backrest that can be hinged forward to expand the size of the sunbed facing aft. I reckon this is big enough to seat maybe 10 people, and as on the Targa 40 that we saw last year, we've got a table fitting here that just folds together and is hinged at the base, so if we remove that cushion and hinge it backwards, we can get rid of that entirely and really open up this cockpit deck for big sociable parties. You'll also notice as we look forward that there's a little step up to the forward part of the saloon here, and that of course helps generate some extra volume down below for the second cabin, which is the midships owner's cabin. Now up here, as down below, the layouts are pretty much fixed, but there are a couple of options that enable you just to tweak the lower deck to your liking, and we'll talk about those when we go down there. In the meantime though, let's just take a look at this starboard galley. As you can see, it butts up against the two helm seats there, but there's a decent amount of travel fore and aft for those helm seats to make you comfortable, whatever kind of body size you are, so that's not a problem at all. We've got a nice fluted finish here as well, that wasn't present on the 45. And if we open a couple of these lids, you'll see we've got a good size of grille there, a really good size of sink. There's an additional little unit here, just for a bit of storage of the bits and bobs. We've got a fridge down under this section, and an ice maker down under there as well. And what I particularly like here, apart from the scale of the thing and the fact it's so nicely integrated and doesn't get in your way, is the fact when you close these lids up, if I bring the camera around here, you'll see there's no chance of trapping your fingers because there's a little overhang. So that's a much safer way to do that. If we spin around and take a look at the port side, you'll see that adjoining that lower dinette, we've got a really nice L-shaped seating section on the port side as well. Big enough for 2 or 3 people, as you can see. And because it extends beyond the level of the helm seats, it operates as really useful companion seating, while also, of course, lifting the level of those mouldings again, just to generate a little bit of extra volume down below. And given that it's quite busy up here, we'll scoop straight past the helm. We'll take a look at that when we actually drive the boat, and we'll pop down below and take a look at the layout. And the layout, I think, is pretty pleasing. Right enough, today it's littered with bits and bobs, with fenders and bags and such, because it's a busy old day. But as you can see, this central section is made up of 2 parts, both integrated. So on the starboard side, we've got another L-shaped dinette. We've got a table that lifts and lowers there, and that can, of course, be turned into an occasional double berth should you want it. We've got high-level storage up there. We've got access to the battery switches behind this little hatch here, which is very tidy when you shut it away. And I quite like the fact we got fabric bulkheads again. We've seen that from Fairline in the past, and it works well again here, just adds a sense of additional luxury. What would also add an additional sense of luxury is this bulkhead here. Apparently you can spec this with a glass bar. It's quite elegantly lit with the TV above that, and it does bring this bulkhead out a few inches, but there's still space to access that forward part of the dinette, and indeed to access the second door to the day heads, which is just here. But before we take a look at any of that, let's spin around again and look to the port side, close that door up and ignore the fenders. What we have here is a 2-ring induction hob, though of course there's space for a more extensive cooking facility if you want it. You've also got a good size of fridge in the aft part of the galley, additional bits of storage and a bin, a good size of sink as well. The quality of the build here feels very good indeed. There's a good size of window and some high-level storage. And under this section of the deck, beneath these fenders, there's some really good storage. A great place just to sling bulky bits and bobs if you're going on a long weekend's cruise. But what we'll do is head straight forward into the VIP cabin. And I call it the VIP cabin, but it can, in truth, be the owner's cabin, should you choose. It's rigged here with the optional scissor berth, but you can have a double in here instead. And it's very well proportioned. This is where you can see all the benefit of those raised forward mouldings. If I turn the camera around, you'll see that it's a good stretch above me to reach that deck head. I reckon we got about 7 feet in here, so it feels really, really voluminous. More fabric bulkhead linings, good hull windows, nice and deep with opening port lights, more high-level storage. This is quite nice. In the middle of this V-berth, we got a little tray to charge your gadgets, your phones. And just in case you haven't done it before, I'll show you how easy it is just to slide these together one-handed. It's no problem at all. And create the double. And as I say, given this is a 47-foot boat and it only has 2 cabins, both are pretty voluminous. So Fairline is quite right in suggesting that you could choose, as the owner, either this forward cabin or the midships cabin. But if you're pushed, then this is probably the VIP. Here's our access point on the starboard side to the day heads, which enables you to call this space the ensuite. We've got a shower inboard, good height, not a huge footprint, and no rain shower, no vertical height above the deck head for that, but perfectly adequate for one person. To close that door over and look outboard, where it's a good size of unit, decent sink and toilet. Again, a really useful size of hull window with opening port light and plenty more cabinetry up top. But we'll scoot around there. More of this lovely fluting, I should say. You can have a different finish if you like, but this quite classical dark polished wood looks good. Let's head further aft through the central atrium and open this door here, and this gives us access to the second of the 2 cabins. Before we get there, we've got the ensuite facilities on the port side, and they're a really generous size. Nicely arranged again, with an L-shaped cabinet and the toilet nestling in there, and a separate shower with its own seat. Again, no rain shower, but significantly larger. And if we take another couple of steps down into the cabin itself, well, it's an unusual arrangement. Huge hull windows, which is lovely, and a bed that faces inboard from the starboard side. What I really like though, the moment we're in here, is the fact, I hope you can see it on the camera, that we have angled bulkheads, and we've seen this on the 40 as well. It adds interest, and here it's particularly practical because it guides you in. It gives you better access to this side of the bed. Just makes it feel a little less pinched and makes it feel a lot more interesting. We have plenty of storage in here, but interestingly, Fairline is looking at eradicating these lower sections of panel just to make it cleaner, so they'll dip beneath the doors and you have a full-size timber door. And if we look aft, well, they're also looking at eradicating these kind of cushioned fabric linings at the bottom end of the bulkhead, just to open the space up, make it feel a little more spacious, a little brighter. It's good to see that we have options on the port side too. What we have here, of course, is the settee option, and with that big window, it's a great place to sit. It's very comfortable indeed for 2 people. There are options though. You can have a dressing table here. What you can't have, and it's a bit of a shame, is a pair of seats with a little table in the middle, a little breakfast bar. So hopefully in the future, they'll factor that in. And I've spoken to the new CEO of Fairline, Oliver Southwell, and he's a very, very engaging sort of fella, open to all sorts of ideas, and is taking exactly the right approach to these things. So hopefully he's going to make Fairline the success it ought to be. In the meantime, let's head back out. Worth having a look at this on the way out. This is not a washing machine, as you might expect. This is your distribution panel, your breaker panel, nicely tucked away. And if we head back upstairs, we'll hopefully be in a position to grab that wheel and have a good drive. Well, I've finally got my chance to have a little play at the wheel, and it's a really interesting helm position, and that's particularly interesting because this helm console, this setup, is echoed on the 40 and also on the Squadron 58. So what we basically have here is quite a large upper tier. We've got a relatively compact 12-inch plotter up there. There's plenty of space for more. The dash fabric itself is very kind of dark and glossy, so it really picks out the light glares a bit, and so does the MFD because of the angle of it. It kind of reflects the sky. So they're looking at changing the dash material and relocating the MFDs, just giving them a better angle for viewing in bright daylight. Elsewhere, we've got a decent bit of switchgear beneath the adjustable wheel. We've got the tabs and the thruster on the left hand side, which I don't particularly like. I'd like those relocated over to your throttle hand, so you just keep one hand on the wheel at all times. It's good to see we've got a little side window here. But if I pull that down, you can't quite reach the cleat from here, so that's slightly out of line. It's a little further aft. I'd like to be able to grab hold of that if I'm single-handed helming. And as for the seats, they're relatively elevated. They're comfortable but quite elevated, so when I'm sitting here in my natural position, my foot brace is not the lower dedicated foot brace, it's actually this upper pocket with a little steel rim to keep your knickknacks, and that's quite uncomfortable. And actually if I slightly amend the seat, just bring it slightly further forward so I'm closer to the touch points at the dash, well, my knee sort of clatters into a little sharp fiberglass edge at the trailing part of that dash structure. So that isn't ideal either. But having looked at all these potential shortcomings when we're static, once you get underway, you kind of forget about that because it's such an enjoyable boat to drive. So let's stick it on single lever and get ourselves up and underway. Now, on the face of it, 32 knots is not an enormous amount of pace, particularly for a proper sports cruiser, particularly a sports cruiser that looks as dynamic as this. But it's not about outright pace, it's about the way this boat achieves it. So if we get up and underway, there's a decent bit of bow lift, but I can of course correct that just by dropping the tabs a touch, and we flatten out nicely, and we're doing about 20 knots. And what's particularly interesting already is the fact that we're seeing about 6 litres per nautical mile, which is a steady kind of fuel flow. If I put on a bit more pace right up towards the top end, well, that doesn't actually change. It stays entirely linear right up to the very top end of 32.5 knots. We're still seeing 6 litres per nautical mile. Now, we've got 1,300 litres of fuel capacity, so if you're saving 20% in reserve, just over 1,000 litres to play with. So we're seeing a range in the region of 170 nautical miles. So whether you want to go 17 knots or 32, you get the same value out of your fuel tank. Let's just spin around to starboard first. You'll see that when we heel her over, it's tremendous amount of action. It's not hard edged, it's not that kind of boat. Just as it's not fast, you don't get those crackling helm responses, but what you do get is all the posturing, lots of composure, look at that, and an extra bit of softness that brings with it comfort. We'll do the same to the port side, spin her over that way, and it's particularly pleasant here because this vast open sunroof overhead, which, as I say, comes as standard, gives me the most perfect view of the seascape. It's also particularly interesting that in spite of the fact this boat is so incredibly open, our decibel readings are really quite generous in terms of refinement for a long passage. It gets up to around about the 70 decibel mark, and you're anticipating it will push on in the last few revs to really increase up towards 80 and potentially even beyond. But it doesn't actually go beyond about 72.5 decibels, which for a boat of this nature is fantastic. That's partly down to the fact that our IPS units are positioned a good way aft, the engines are positioned a good way aft, but also to the fact that they concentrate so hard on lagging that engine bay. But before I stop talking and take the boat back, it's worth mentioning this latest Volvo Penta technology. Now, we got the joystick here, and that comes with dynamic positioning. The dynamic positioning system, you might have heard of Skyhook from other brands, but it basically hit that button and it holds you dead steady, exactly where you need to be. So if you're coming alongside and you need time just to put the fenders out or compose yourself, you can hit that and just relax a bit. But we've also got assisted docking, so you can use the joystick just to rotate, to shift yourself sideways in the conventional fashion. But the moment you come off that, it goes back to dynamic positioning and sticks exactly where you want it to be. So again, you can just relax and have a think. And what's particularly interesting to me here is the fact that we can also use the joystick when you're driving a little faster. If we come back to neutral and hit the button and engage that joystick, there we go. It's the same kind of principle. So I push it forward and we can get up and underway. And then when I come off that joystick, it'll hold me at exactly that pace. So we're doing 20 knots, it'll hold me there. I don't need to touch the wheel, of course, because I can steer as well. And you've got to be quite circumspect with it, because look, you get a tremendous amount of hill as it changes direction. But if you just learn to be a bit more relaxed with it, instead of putting it on and off, you kind of ease it over and hold it steady. It's very controllable indeed, and remarkably intuitive. That then is the new Fairline Targa 47 Open, one of the first models launched by Fairline under its new ownership. And I have to say, it's a really interesting boat. Now, as intimated, I think its helm station could do with a bit of an ergonomic tweak, and there are other elements that need finessing, but it's great to look at, is good fun to drive, and also surprisingly refined and comfortable for an open boat. If you enjoy big day parties, that wide open cockpit saloon configuration works an absolute treat. And in terms of the accommodation, well, it's perfect for a family of 4 or for a couple of cruising couples. Now, if there's something you'd like to say about this boat, please do leave your comments in the section below. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button, and if you want to see more videos like this in the future, then make sure you subscribe to the Motorboat and Yachting channel.